Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the Business G Spot podcast. And as you know, I'm doing this on my own. I was doing it with Tim Gillette. We're figuring things out. And as you can see, yay, we're live. And I just want to say that this is the Business G Spot. We're happy that you're here. And we're sponsored by KG Website Designs, as well as Simple Easy Marketing by Tim Gillette. Thanks so much for doing that, Tim, and continuing to sponsor this podcast. So today, I've got a couple things I wanted to talk to you about, several things actually. Today, we're going to talk about your website. And I know this is something that a lot of people don't really like to talk about, but we're going to go into quite a bit of detail on whether you're going to set up your website or whether you'll have somebody else set up your website. We're going to give you things to know when you're doing that, and also great questions to ask. So if you decide to hire somebody to do this for you, keeping in mind that the things you want to remember before you do anything with your website is whether you decide you want to set it up. And if that's the case, is it truly in your wheelhouse? Is it truly worth your time? And that's something that you really want to think about when it comes to setting that up in regards to your website. Or is it better just to hire somebody to help you with this? And we're going to go through quite a few things that you're going to need with this website and things you want to think about when you're doing this. So the number one thing, of course, is you want to get your domain. And for those that may not know what a domain is, it's that URL that people go to, like mine is KG Website Designs. So a lot of times when you're looking at domains, you want to look at the name of that domain. There are a couple things you want to do. One is you always want to get a domain of your personal name because it's your business, and two, of your business as well, the business name. And sometimes you want to get a website or a domain name of your business that's spelled a little bit wrong, because as we know, not all of us are really good spellers out there. So it keeps you better SEO, and it helps people to find you much easier when you find a really good domain name. Now, there are a couple ways you can find those domain names, and there's a couple resources that I like to go to. The biggest one, of course, is GoDaddy, and that depends on cost. They can range anywhere between $11 to $14 or even more on a domain, depending on what that domain is. And I always recommend to people to get a .com if at all possible, because people are still looking at .coms, not .net, not .org, not .la, not . They're always going to be typing in .com because that is the habit. So you always want to get one that says .com. But like I said, you can go to GoDaddy, and we will note these in the notes as well for you folks as a reference to go to. The other one is domain.com and 101 Domain. Those are a lot of really good ones to get a domain in place and figure that out. But like I said, just like with any name for your business, you want to make sure that it's something that's going to work specific for you. Also, a lot of people ask me, how many do I actually need? We just talked about it. You want to get one for your personal name, one for your business name, and a couple with your business name may be misspelled a little bit, so it's easier for you to be found. But you don't have to go hog wild, but to get the best SEO, you still can go in and get things specific for your industry. Like, let's say you're a realtor and your name is Kathy Dunn. So Kathy Dunn, the realtor. You can do one of that nature. You can do real estate by Kathy Dunn. You can do also your real estate agent, which is maybe Kelly Realtor or Keller Realtor, or some of the other ones that are out there, Best Garden, whatever the case may be. These are things that you might want to put in place too. Because like I said, the more you have with those in regards to domain, it's better SEO, and it's easier for people to find you. Now, the next thing is a big one, and that's the hosting. And what people don't realize is, okay, I got a domain name, I'm ready, let's go. That's not always the case. A domain is essentially where you're going to house your website. That is essentially where people are going to find your website, where they're going to go to it, find all the information, and that is your hosting piece. Now, not all hosting companies are created equal, and some of them will have a lot of things in place that you want to utilize for your website, and we're going to go over those, but some of them, they're extra cost, some of them, they're included. So the top ones that we like the most is SiteGround. That's one of our favorites. InMotion Hosting, as well as HostGator. I know those are some popular ones, but here are the things you want to think about when you're looking at a hosting piece. One, what is included in that hosting piece? Is it an SSL certificate? And we've talked about this before. And the difference on an SSL certificate is essentially saying whether it's an HTTPS or an HTTP. Granted, an HTTPS is a lot more secure, and you'll notice that when you go on Chrome or Safari or any of the other ones with an HTTP, a lot of times they're going to say you're going into a place that's not secure. So that's something you want to keep in mind, and some of them are included with that. Another thing is security. A lot of them will include security in the background, so that way your site is being secure from being hacked by hackers, and sometimes that's part of their service, sometimes it's an extra on top of. The third one is email. You want to make sure that people can get a hold of you and you have an email, especially with your domain name, because it looks more professional than Gmail or Yahoo or Outlook. It looks more professional when it's got your domain. So that's another thing you want to find out with your hosting piece. Do they do the email piece? Also, the backup. Do they have backup in regards to if something happens? Do they have a backup of your whole website? That means the data, the files, the images, everything that goes along with that. Do they have that backup so that if something happens, you can at least pull it back in and not have to recreate the whole thing from scratch? So those are things that you always want to check into when it comes to your hosting. The other thing you want to check into is most of them are shared hosting. When I say shared hosting, that means my host or my website is shared with a bunch of other people that are on the same server, and they're being shared with other people. So it just depends on how many are on that shared server and how often do they plan to move people across other servers. So then that way your website comes up quickly. It doesn't go down. These are key things you want to make sure are in place. And that's one of the things you want to talk to them about. So there's usually shared, then there's cloud, where it's more in the cloud than it is on a server. And then there's also VPS, which is a very private server. And that's usually something that you pay extra for, where you're actually on your own separate server by yourself. That's usually not really something that you would need unless you have a very robust website that needs a lot of bandwidth. And if that's the case, then that might be something you might want to think about. But that's also something you want to look into when it comes into your hosting piece. Now, so we've talked about the domain. We've talked about which is your URL, and we've also talked about the hosting. We've also talked about some of those things that hopefully your hosting includes. If not, then usually it's an extra fee on top of whatever you're paying for your hosting. So those are things you want to look at when you're budgeting for those things. Now, what I want to talk about is, so you've got all those pieces in place, and now you want to set up your website. What are the key things you want on your website so that people are going to actually come and see you? Now, the number one thing that I always tell my clients is you want to make sure that the content that's on there is geared towards your audience. That means, what is the gap that is out in your industry that you happen to be filling for your audience? That's what you want to put across. Plus, you want them to feel like you actually hear them, like you're talking to them. Like, for example, and I know I go back to the real estate piece, but it's always the easiest one to do. But in real estate, the biggest thing people are thinking about is either buying or selling a house, or starting to look for a house, or maybe financing to try and buy a house. So these are key things that you're going to want to put across to your audience. Like, for instance, are you trying to buy a brand new house, but you feel like you can't afford it? Well, maybe you can. And here's some tips to help you along the way, blah, blah, blah. Whatever that may be, but you're capturing their interest because that's why they're coming. They're looking and they're thinking, okay, she totally knows that's exactly what I'm looking for. So you always want that content based to your audience when you're pulling a website together. And that's your content across the board. Another thing you always want to have in place, and I've talked to people about this before, and it still astounds me how many people still don't have this on their website, and that's contact information. I mean, you want people to contact you. So it's just simple stuff. Even if it's on your contact page or in the footer, you want them to be able to get a hold of you, whether that be an email, a phone number, or a fill-in form, whatever that may be, you still want them to be able to get a hold of you. So have your contact information on there. The other thing is, and it saves a lot of time and energy, is having a calendar option. If you want somebody to set up an appointment with you or get in contact with you or have a consultation, make it easy for them. Just go in and set something up so that it's a calendar piece that now they go in, they get to see what time is available for you to talk to you about something. They set it up, it gets added to their calendar, gets added to your calendar, done. Plus, a lot of these pieces can also add a Zoom link so that now it makes it easy for your client, because the whole point with the website is not only do you want to bring people in to talk about what you can provide for them, but you want to make it easy for them to manipulate and go through your website so that they don't have to do, okay, now I have to go here, and then I got to go here, and then I got to go here, and then I got to go here, and they, holy crap, I'm done. I'm out of here. Make it easy for them. And one of those pieces is a calendar piece. Make it easy for both of you. And also your images. You want images that really convey what you're trying to push across to your clients. That goes along with your content. So you don't want to go across and say, hey, I'm a website designer and I've got images of butterflies. What do butterflies have to do with design? So you want your images, because as they say, images and pictures are worth 1,000 words. You want them to admit exactly what it is you're trying to express to your clients and what you're trying to say. Like, for instance, going back to the real estate agent, people are frustrated in the industry. So why not put people, like, oh my God, I'm trying to buy a house and it's just so frustrating. So show a picture of somebody who's frustrated. Now they get it. They feel it. They can see the emotions coming through that picture. And now they can say, oh my God, that's so totally me. I need to talk to this person. They know exactly what I need. So your images are a big thing as well. Also, a lot of times people will go in and they'll say, okay, Katrina, come on, we got AI. We can have AI do everything for us. We can have them do the content. We can have them do the images. We can have it do, I should say it, them, whatever it is. AI can build my website. That's great. However, with AI, and I talked about this last week with our episode, and I will push that out to you that didn't see it. AI, you have to understand, is basically going across the internet and gathering data that's already out there. That means it's gathering data from other websites that are out there and gathering data from other people that have written information out there. And now we're having copyright infringement issues. So don't just count on AI. It still has to come from you. And you're the one who's behind that, and it's your voice. So don't just count on AI to do everything. So that's still something you still want to have in place. The other thing too, like I stated before, is you want to make sure that your site is secure. Making sure that when people go onto your site, whether they're making payments or doing calendar or trying to get in contact with you, that they're on a secure site, they're not going to be hacked. So that's what we talked about, which is the HTTPS. And sometimes you may want to have your clients just pay you online. Make it easy for them. I mean, after all, you want to make money, right? So make it easy for them. Go in and make it so that with your invoicing, they have a button to pay really quickly so that they can pay automatically without you having to deal with it. Or set them up on recurring. Whatever the case may be, make it easy for them to pay you by allowing them to do so on your website with a simple button that says pay here. Other thing you want to have too is, like I said, you want to make it easy for them. Don't have them go through a lot of steps. I mean, I just recently moved to New Mexico. Both my husband and I moved to New Mexico. And I love New Mexico. I really do. And I love everything about New Mexico. But I must say, I'm not very impressed with the websites in New Mexico. I have gone on to the websites for the city, for the state, whatever it is I've gone on, and it seems like everything I have to go through takes one step after another step after. It's not very simple. Like, I'll give you an example. We wanted to go to the fair. So we went online to look for the fair. We see that it's there. We look at it. It gives a few little details, and then it has you click this other button to buy a ticket. Then that takes you to another spot to buy a ticket. Then you hit that takes you to another spot to buy it. I mean, by the time I'm done, it's like I might as well just show up in person and buy the damn ticket, because this is too much work. So that's what I'm talking about, is you want to make it as easy as possible for clients and people to see what you have to offer for them, but also make it easy for them to go through your website. Don't make it difficult. Have a couple people go through it and ask them, how many steps did you have to go through to get from A to B? And then figure out how it can be as little as possible. You shouldn't have any more than 2, if that. Okay, I've got my invoice. I want to pay. Hit the pay button, click, put in my information, pay. Done. That should be it. Or, okay, I want to set up an appointment. So click. I see all the times. I pick one, click, done. Add it to my calendar. Done. Make it easy for your clients to go on your website and maneuver it and make sure that everything is there so that they can see it. Now, when it comes to costs, a lot of people say, well, I'll just do it myself. It's much easier. But let me ask you this. How much time do you really have to commit to setting this up? And like I said before, is it really in your wheelhouse? Is it something you know how to do, or are you just winging it? So keep in mind that there are a lot of options out there, especially to hire people, but they can range from one range all the way to the other. And the range can be anywhere from $75 an hour, depending on how long it's going to take, all the way up to 20 grand, depending on how big and how robust your website is. Now, here's the key. When you're paying for this, a lot of times I've had clients that have paid thousands and thousands of dollars for a website that's now just an online paperweight. So make sure that when you're working with somebody, how long have they been in business? How long do they plan on staying in business? Because I had a client that made a website. She spent $10,000 for a website that was literally this pretty website that talked about her business, and that was it. There was nothing else, no calendar, no way of paying her, no way of getting in contact with her, nothing. $10,000 for an online paperweight. And on top of that, that business closed. So when she wanted something to be changed, she went back to them and asked them, can you change something? And they said, sorry, but we filed bankruptcy. So see you in court. Now she has a website she can't even do anything with. So these are things you want to make sure. And the number thing too, if you're having somebody else handle it for you, get the back end information. So at least that way, and it doesn't mean you're going to go and make changes, but at least that way you have it. So then if you decide to go with another webmaster, now at least you have the access to do so. Also, you want to make sure that if you've got someone else doing your website and you've decided to let them go, make sure you've got that background information before you do that. Have someone else sign on to make sure they can access it and put themselves on as admin, and then let them go, because sometimes they will hijack your website. I'm just saying. So those are things that you want to think about when it comes to being in your wheelhouse. And also you want to think about the time invested in this. How long is it going to take you to put that website together? How long is it going to take someone else to put that website together? And no, it doesn't happen overnight. Granted, there are website pieces and there are people out there that can do a very simple templated website for you just to get it up and going. That's what Tim does with his business and easy marketing. He's got also an easy, simple, easy websites. And that's what he does. It's a templated website just to get your information out there, get yourself going. So at least you have a place for people to go and get a hold of you. And if that's what you need, that's great. It can be done in probably a week because it's templated. But here's the thing you want to remember too, is you want to remember that when you're in business, you kind of go through a couple different stages. The first one is you're brand new in business. You're just starting. People don't know about you. So maybe that's what you need. Just a simple templated website just to get yourself out there. But as you start to go farther into your business, things change. You want more options for your clients on the website. You want more things and bells and whistles, and that's going to cost more money. So that's something you might want to think about. The other thing too is when you're starting a business, sometimes we think, oh, I'm going to be this big, huge business. I'm going to make millions of dollars. And you might find out, yeah, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm changing a different direction. And then you're going to have to change the whole website and everything else along with it. So these are things you want to keep in mind before you start even pulling your website together. Now, the other thing too is when you're hiring somebody to do a website for you, and they take a little longer to do it, it depends on the extent of what you want done. And 9 times out of 10, when a webmaster takes on a website, the holdup is not them. It's you, the client. They're still waiting for you to give them content. They're still waiting for you to give them this in regards to your calendar, or they're still waiting for you to get on the phone and give them access to this so that they can connect the two. Because as we know, when it comes to your social media, when it comes to calendar pieces, when it comes to payment pieces, they have 2-step verifications on a lot of those. And you have to be on the phone because 9 times out of 10, it's your phone that's on that account and you're the one who's going to get the code. So you have to be on the phone with your webmaster to put all those pieces in place. It doesn't just say, okay, here you go for it. And you have to remember too, these things are timed. So that when you're getting a code and you're thinking, okay, I'll just send this real quick, you didn't get it for you just saw it and it's been an hour, that code's no longer good. Now you have to go through it again and you're in a meeting or whatever the case may be. It's not as simple as you think. So these are things you want to keep in mind when you're hiring somebody. Are you available to get all of the back-end pieces set up front? So then that way you have everything you need. Your webmaster has everything they need so that they can connect everything. And that way you can get your website up and running much quicker than them depending on you. And when I say content, a lot of times with webmasters, they don't write the content. You write the content. Now, with our business, we write the content for you. That's kind of our sweet spot. Our sweet spot is writing the content by putting our clients' hats on in regards to their audience. We put their audience hat on, and then we write it towards their audience. And that's one of our sweet spots. But not every webmaster does that. A lot of them are anticipating you to come up with that content, or maybe you to come up with the images, or maybe you to come up with a lot of the other pieces that need to be in place. And when they're waiting on you and you're not providing that, then your website's taking longer than anticipated because they're still waiting for you to respond. So even though your website might take a while, it may be because you're not giving them the information they need when they need it. And that's something you have to keep in mind as well. So now we've covered a ton of stuff when it comes to your website. So let's go over a couple things because I like to do this quickly. I know in the past, Tim and I had this going on for about an hour, and I think I wanted to save time and make it as quick as efficient as possible. So I only want to do these for about a half an hour just to give you some key tips. So we've covered a lot. And the things that you want to make sure that you have in place for your website are these key things. Number one is your URL, which is your domain name. The hosting piece, where you're going to have that hosted. What are the key things that are going to go with that hosting? Is it going to have email? Make sure it has security, backup, has your SSL certificate so that it's an HTTPS. Then you also want to make sure that you have the information on your website in regards to your contact information, your social media, your content that is geared towards your audience, images that convey what you're trying to say, payment options if you want your clients to pay you online, calendar options if you want to set up consultants, making it easy for them to get as much as possible on your website. So that way, now you're making it easy for them to do business with you. Think about it. When you go on a website, what are the key things that you're looking at when you're on that website? The one thing is it easy? Is it easy to find the information? Is it exactly what I'm looking for? If it is, then okay, I'm sold. I'm in. So those are the things you really want to have in place with your website. And also the backup piece. When you're looking for hosting, ask them with the backup. How difficult is it to have this backup uploaded in case my site gets hacked? So that way I don't have to spend time and money to get a brand new website created. Because sometimes they'll only back up a portion of it, not the whole thing. So you want to make sure they're backing up everything on your website so that, and ask them this, okay, this backup, my site goes down, will it be completely up and running with this backup, with everything in place? They can say yes, then you got a good service, but you've got to make sure. So these are things you want to ask yourself. Are you going to be doing this yourself, or are you going to hire somebody to do it? And if you are going to hire somebody to do it, what is your budget? Are you willing to pay a couple thousand? Are you willing to pay $4,000? Or are you willing to only pay couple $100? And I guarantee you that you're not going to find much of a website for a couple $100. So those are things you want to think about when it comes to your budgetary needs, when it comes to your website and what you've got on that website and how you're going to push it across. Once you've got that website up and running, now, of course, you want to let the whole world know about it. So you want to lay that out. You want to make sure everything's working, check it twice. Then you want to send that link out through social media to let everybody know, hey, we've got a brand new website. We want you to check it out. Let us know what you think and get the feedback. Find out, is it easy for you to maneuver? Is it easy for you to find things? Does it talk to you? Does it sing to you? And take their feedback and find out, what is it that they would like to see on that website? What more would they like in regards to information on their website? I mean, let's face it, your website, it shouldn't just be an online brochure. It should be something that they're getting information from, freebie, whatever, because as we know, your website can make you money, get your appointments, and get you leads if it's set up properly. That's what your website can be doing, can be making you money and getting you leads while you're asleep and making you appointments without you even having to lift a finger. Because as we know, we have enough to do, don't we? The one thing we don't want to have to deal with is, oh, that's right, I got to do this. Oh, that's right, I got to do that. So you want to make sure your systems and everything are set up. And that's one of the key things when you're setting up a website. So we hope you found this hopefully very beneficial, and that you find when you're moving forward with your website, whether you hire somebody or you decide to do it, these are some of the key things that you want to remember. We will